Everyone wants to glow up, become the best version of themselves, have this crazy transformation, live a perfect life. And yet we can so often get caught in the daydreaming phase that we do not take any action. How many YouTube videos like this have you watched? How many TikToks you have saved? How many vision boards have you created on Pinterest? And yet, when it comes to our day-to-day, nothing changes. We spend time reflecting and we just feel bad or sorry for ourselves or feel like, nothing ever changes. I can never actually stick to anything. I can never do the things that I want to do. And so then you just kind of shut down, or you just again fixate on kind of like this future version, this idealized version of yourself that is not actually close to being realistic. I'm not saying this out of a place of guilt or shame or trying to like make you feel bad at all. I'm saying this because I have been there, and there are still times when I get caught in this kind of like daydreaming phase. I will still fall victim to spending time on Pinterest planning out my next like 6 months or 5 years from now, instead of focusing on my current week, my current situation, and how to make the most out of where I'm at right now. So if this resonates with you, this episode is going to be for you. We're going to chat through how we can take action in our current life, how we can get out of this kind of cycle of daydreaming about the next phase and actually show up for ourselves in the present, what we're going to do this week in order to be the best version of ourselves. Hello and welcome back to the Hot Mess Habits podcast. My name is Victoria Harder. I'm your host. I am a content creator, a mom, a wife, a photographer. I work in marketing, and I host this podcast, which is available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And I just like to make content for the girls who feel like they've maybe been left behind, who feel like everyone else has their life together except for them, who are overachieving perfectionists and have very high expectations for themselves, but can often feel like they're letting themselves down. This is a safe place for you because we talk about the reality of like what it looks like to pursue dreams and create good habits, even when we have lots going on, even when there are real life responsibilities, and what to do when things don't go well, how we can pick ourselves up and keep moving forward. If you're not, please make sure that you're subscribed if you're on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple. Also, if you would love to, if you leave me a comment and say hello, I love to know where you guys are listening from. And a rating and review is always appreciated. If you guys have been listening for a while, would love to hear your thoughts on the podcast. We are going to start with just a little bit of a life update because it is the end of January here. And honestly, we all deserve a gold medal for getting through this month. I know there's still a couple days left, and January just every year feels like the slowest month of the year. I've had a lot going on this month, but yet it still feels like the days are just dragging on. But I just want to say congratulations, guys. We've almost made it out. We've almost made it to the shortest month of the year. And I just know that this week is often when people really feel low and down. So if you're there, I feel you. I see you. I just wanted to share a little bit of a life update, end of January recap with you guys. If you are not interested in this like style of content, you can feel free to use the timestamps below and jump past this. I always make sure to do really good timestamps for you guys so you can jump around the video really well. But the first life update is that I now work in marketing. This is a shift for me because I have been self-employed for the last 7 years, and honestly, I may do a podcast episode on this because I feel like there is so much on the internet about, quitting your 9 to 5 and finally learning or like finally transitioning to being self-employed. But what there's not a lot of content on is people who were self-employed and have decided to take a job. And I think the reason behind this is because it feels like a thing that is shameful. It feels like a thing that indicates failure. But for me, since I've had my son, I really felt pulled in a lot of directions. And one of those things that was weighing a lot on me and was really heavy on my shoulders was just the financial weight of being self-employed. And being self-employed means that often you have a very inconsistent paycheck. And especially with the work that I have been doing, which is photography, majority of my income was coming in the summer. And then basically especially because we're in Canada, not a lot of people get married in the winter. So there was rarely a time when I would shoot a wedding in the winter. So then basically from like October all the way through till April, it was very, very slow income wise. And I was doing some branding and content creation and things like that. But even those just felt a lot more like I had to do a lot of hustling to be able to get those people to book. And it was just so much energy and effort that was going into that. And there was not always that guaranteed income reward. And so for myself in this current season, I decided to explore some other ventures. I applied for a few different marketing positions to just kind of see what was out there. And I ended up accepting this marketing position in the summer. And I wanted to wait a little bit to chat about it because it was very, obviously this is very like new to me, and I wanted to make sure that things were going well before I like chatted about it. But honestly, it has been so refreshing to be able to work for someone else. And I'm able to still, like, I still have my business. It's not like I had to give up my business in order to take this job. And I've definitely had to, at the beginning, I was kind of sad and felt like, oh, did I fail at my business because I'm not making like, you know, enough sustainable income throughout the whole year that like I can continue doing this. But overall, having the sense of stability and honestly just having someone like give me tasks to do has been really, really nice and very refreshing. So, but overall, that has been a big transition in my life. And I just wanted to share that with you guys because I feel like it gives context in terms of like when I'm talking about my habits and my routines and all the things. It just gives a little context as to what I've been doing for work these days. So yeah, I definitely have a lot going on right now. I have my job, I have my business still, and then I have content creation, and then obviously like mom life and all of our like life responsibilities. So that's just the little update for you guys. I'm also upping my hours at work this week, so feeling good and feeling excited about that. And also like in terms of me going and getting a job, this is a pretty great job to have. I feel like it's very in line, obviously, with what I do. It's all focused on social media and content creation. So I honestly could not have asked for a better situation with that. Anyways, that is my little life update for you guys, which I hope gives some context as to what I've been up to and what I'm doing these days. The month of January definitely has been slow, but we've had lots of family visit. I've been watching Bridgerton. I watched the first season of Bridgerton when it first came out, which was like in January, I think of 22 or 21 or something. So I watched that one then, and then I never have watched any of the other seasons. So I've been watching Bridgerton, which has been great. It just feels very like distracting from the Canadian winter that I'm experiencing. So I watched the second season and the third season, and then also I'm watching Queen Charlotte, which is like the solo series that's like a Bridgerton inspired series or whatever. Those have all been wonderful. And then otherwise, things that I've been loving this month, I have been loving my Ultra Human ring, which is my new tracking ring that I got sent. I'm very happy with it so far. I'll be posting a full review probably on Instagram or TikTok. And my true current obsession is the wild berry poppy, which I had when I was in Oregon, and I was obsessed with it. It came in like a tall can at the gas station. Loved it. It was like my favorite drink that I got when we were there. And then in Canada at Costco, it came out as a variety pack. So in Canada, we don't have like all the poppies. We only have a few that you can get like at the grocery store as singles. And then at Costco, we have had one variety pack, which has like strawberry lemon, cherry limeade, and orange. And then they just released a new one, which has wild berry, lemon lime. Oh my goodness, I can't remember the other one. Wild berry, lemon lime, and grape, I think. No, not grape. Anyways, the key point is that wild berry is in it. And so I was so excited because I was like, I've not been able to get my hands on wild berry in forever. So I bought that. The unfortunate thing about that is that my husband has decided that he likes that flavor. My husband does not like any of like the other poppies, but he's decided that that's the one that he likes. So that's unfortunate because if I buy it again, I know that he's just going to drink all of the wild berry ones and leave me with the lemon lime and and it's the Doc Pop one, which I like the lemon lime and Doc Pop, but the wild berry is elite. It's my current obsession, and unfortunately I will not be buying it because my husband's just going to drink all of them. So hence why I have my Diet Coke here today. Oh, and lastly, before we move on to the the real topic of today. I've decided that my colors for the next month or two are going to be green and blue. So many things in my life are this like dark blue, which just keeps popping up everywhere. And it just keeps coming into my life, as well as green. And especially, I think, for whatever reason, January through March, I consume a lot more matcha than any other time of the year. I don't know what it is. I think it's just like coffee to me is more like fall, winter, like cozy Christmas. Christmas is coffee. And then the new year is like matcha, and spring is matcha. So yeah, I've decided that I'll be changing my colors to be green and blue. And when I say changing my colors, I mean like of my Instagram feed. Not actually like anything serious, but if you look for that, I'm sure that you'll see it. As you can see, I'm wearing this mint green and blue sweater, so we're starting off strong. I also feel like it complements my pink vibes well. So anyways, all of this poppy and Instagram talk, we're going to move on to the important stuff. Let's go. Okay, so how are we going to focus this week on being present and glowing up this week instead of focusing on having this insane transformation over the next 6 years? Because the reality is that if we can work on our day-to-day habits, if we can work on our weekly habits, those will eventually help in the long term. Those will eventually build and get us to where we want to be. But we have to do that work. We have to do that middle work. We can't just spend all of our time dreaming about like the one day. Now, I don't think that anyone has truly figured out how to like be present, fully mastered. I think that is something that is a struggle for most people, is, you know, not spending too much time obsessing over the past or feeling nostalgic about the past, but also not spending too much time fixating on the future and dreaming of the future. Like, how do we live in this current present moment? And I think that for those of us who do have high expectations and like a lot of expectation on ourselves, it can feel even more taxing. It can feel even more like, okay, I have all these expectations. I'm naturally goal driven. I have all these things that I want to do. How am I supposed to just focus on right now when I just want to talk about all the things that I want to do eventually? And instead of motivating us, that can lead us to freezing. It can lead us to be like, okay, I want to do all these things. I have all these goals, but I don't know how to do them. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to take the first step. Every time I try to do things, it doesn't work. So I'm just not going to do anything. Or can feel like, or you can get wrapped up in the shame of the like things you used to do. It's like, oh, if I didn't waste so much time doing this. Oh, if I just had done this a little bit sooner. If I, the list goes on and on of all the ways on which we are so hard on ourselves in terms of like not feeling like we're the person that we want to be, or just feeling like we should be doing so much more than we are. So if that is where you are today, you're feeling overwhelmed, you feel shame, you feel like you haven't done enough, I just want to say that there is still so much time. It can feel, especially when we're in like our early 20s, it can feel like truly time is running out by the week. And I promise you, it will feel better eventually. As soon as I turned 25, I feel like my brain started to be like, okay, I have time. It's going to be okay. We've got time to work on our goals. We've got time to work on our dreams. The world is not going to come crashing down if I do not hit like all these goals by the time I'm 30. So if that's where you are, I just want to encourage you. It's going to get better. You're going to be okay. You'll be able to feel like you can breathe again. But today I want to talk to you about how we can just change our focus. I want to just encourage you to take your focus away from focusing on that future version of yourself or feeling shameful about who you used to be or the time that you've wasted. And instead, I want to just challenge you to look at your day ahead, your week ahead, and ask yourself, like, what can I do this week that will move me more towards my goals? Now, obviously, even as I'm saying like, okay, who do you want to be? Or like, what are your goals? There's a piece to this that involves like a little bit of that dreaming phase, but I think that for most of us, that's the easy part. The easy part is the dreaming. The easy part is setting the goals. We know what we want to do. We know what we want to say. Maybe, if you want to do that today and you spend some time like thinking about, okay, this is who I want to be in, 6 months, a year from now, sure, do that. But I need you to set a time limit on it in terms of like, okay, I'm going to spend 10 minutes making a vision board for the next month. And then I'm going to spend 40 minutes planning out what the next part of my month is going to look like. So that's my just encouragement. I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm just saying that we need to make sure that we are spending time focusing on the current moment. So let's chat about how we're going to do that. So I want you to ask yourself, okay, I want you to look at what you've been doing and say, okay, what are the habits in my life that are good right now? Maybe write some of those down. Maybe you already are doing quite a few different things that are good and are in line with who you want to be, but they just need a little bit of tweaking. Maybe you've been going to the gym multiple times a week, but maybe when you get there, you haven't really made a plan for what you want to do for your workouts. So then you just end up walking on the treadmill and not really making the most of the time that you have there. Maybe what you want to do is, okay, I know that I'm going to go to the gym this week. I'm already doing that. That's already part of my routine. So I'm going to plan out the 3 days that I go to the gym. I'm going to plan out what exactly I'm going to do when I get there. Maybe you already have a really good system in place for ordering your groceries. You always do your grocery shopping on Thursdays. And so instead of trying to reinvent like, oh, I'm going to start like going to the grocery store 2 times a week so I can get more fresh ingredients. No, maybe you're still going to go on Thursdays, but you're going to just plan out better what food you're getting so you're not throwing food away at the end of the week. Going along with this idea of like leaning into the habits that already exist. For myself, I'm a very visual person, as you may already be able to tell. I love aesthetics. I love photos. I'm a photographer. And for me, seeing a visual is really what helps things sink in. So that's why I have whiteboards everywhere. I have vision boards everywhere. I really need to be able to see things. And for me, things being pretty and aesthetic helps me. Okay. Just bear with me, follow with me here. I promise that I'll have a little good tip from this. But so seeing things that are aesthetic and pretty, I like it. It gives me dopamine. It makes me feel like inspired and encouraged. And so when I'm able to look at my habits and routines that I'm already doing and take a photo of them, make them look pretty, make them look desirable, there is nothing that encourages me more than that. And what I'll do is I will take little photos throughout my week of like the habits and the routines that I'm doing, then go onto Instagram, and there's the feature called like the layout feature on stories. And it takes me like literally 5 seconds to do this. And I just upload all the little photos into like a 4 grid or a 6 grid. And it looks like a little Pinterest board. Okay. And it's all my own photos. And it reminds me that like, oh, okay, there are already things that I'm doing that look like a Pinterest board. There are already things in my life that are in line with who I want to be. There are already things in my life that are really good habits, and being able to see the photo of all of them together just helps me appreciate and kind of like romanticize them more. And then it's almost like a gratitude practice where I'm like, okay, I can see these things. I'm grateful that I'm doing them. And then because I'm doing that, it helps me look for those things even more in my life and like want to do them. And obviously I'm not like doing specific things just for a photo, but it's more so that I'm like just taking the time to think about the fact of like, oh, look at, I actually showed up. I actually bought the good, healthy groceries. They're in my fridge. They look pretty because they're all different, colors of fruits and vegetables, or I actually cleaned my house so it looks clean. I'm going to light a candle and take a photo and be like, oh, wow, I actually did the thing and cleaned my house and now I get to relax. So that tip is for those of you who are also like a visual learner and like to take photos and things like that. Again, kind of a random tip, but that one has really helped me. Moving on to the most practical part of this episode, how do we plan out our week for success? The easiest way to make yourself feel stressed and burnt out and like you're going crazy is just to have a never ending to-do list that you just chip away at for the rest of your life. And so this is how I used to plan my week, was just like write out all of the tasks that I needed to do and then just kind of go for it and do what I needed to do and just let life kind of pass on by. And when I worked like that, it basically just made me feel like I was never accomplishing anything, especially being self-employed, because there's always more tasks to do when you're self-employed. And so I would just like work at my to-do list, add more things to my to-do list, work at my to-do list, add more things to my to-do list. So if that's the approach that you're taking right now, we got to refine that, because when I was able to refine this, it made me feel like I was actually accomplishing things and not just like on this hamster wheel of like hustling all the time. Now, when it comes to planning my week, I will sometimes start with like writing down the task that I need to do, because, that is a reality, is that there's always to-dos, to-do lists exist. The tasks keep on coming. So, but I will write them down, and then I will look ahead at my week and I will map out what are my like actual core responsibilities. So what are the things that I must get done? What are the deadlines? What are the things? And I'll start with those as my like, okay, this has to be done on these dates. I then strongly encourage you to try to use some form of time blocking and having like a repeating weekly schedule. So for me, I have like set days when I do certain things. I know that on Mondays and Wednesdays, those are my dedicated work days. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, those are my mom days. And so I have different responsibilities, obviously, on each of those days. And I have time blocks within those days where I'm going to work on certain projects. So instead of just leaving each of my days just like wide open, I have set like 2 to 3 hour time blocks where it's like, okay, I'm going to do all of my podcast editing during this time block. Anything to do with the podcast has to be done during this time block. When that time block ends, I truly finish the task that I'm in the middle of doing, and I will leave it until I have the next time block. I won't try to extend or cut into different hours, or like I've really tried to avoid working super late into the night. Does not always happen, but I really try to not just be working all hours of the night. And knowing that I have another time block coming up later in the week really helps me with this. Having recurring time blocks also just helps me be way more present as a mom, because on the days that I have blocked off, that's like literally just like mom time, I know that during that time, I don't have to pick up my laptop. I don't have to be working. I don't have to be answering calls. I don't have to be doing any of the things other than just being present with my son, doing family activities, going to swimming lessons, doing all of those things without there being any guilt around that. Looking at our week like this, like from an outside perspective, where we're looking at the time chunks, we're looking at each day, allows us to be a lot more realistic about what we can actually accomplish. And for me, always makes me feel like I have more time than I actually do. If I start my week and I sit down and I see that big, huge task list and that's all I see, I don't have a plan for how I'm going to accomplish it. It just honestly leaves me feeling so overwhelmed and kind of like in shutdown mode. And then I really just don't feel like I can do any tasks throughout the week because I just feel so overwhelmed. Whereas if I take the time to plan out, okay, how am I going to take these tasks and how am I going to break them down throughout Monday to Friday and be able to get them done? When I can do that, that is truly when I feel like I can accomplish things, and then my rest time actually feels like rest. There's also some things too where I feel like, oh, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do this. Looking at your calendar this way with just more of a bird's eye perspective can just allow you the freedom of feeling like you have more time and take away that kind of feeling of being overwhelmed and feeling like you just don't have enough time to do all the things. Again, like I was mentioning, most of my calendar is like repeats every week. Majority of the time I'm doing the same thing every single week, especially with my job right now and daycare and all the things. So my weekly schedule, I can just set to kind of like repeat, and then I will look and adjust depending on, obviously each week has a little bit different responsibilities. But once you get kind of in the rhythm of doing this, it can start to feel very natural and feel like, oh, okay, this is actually like a good schedule for me. I can repeat this on a weekly basis. Or you may need to adjust depending on like, oh, okay, maybe your schedule's a little bit more flex. You have different things going on each week, and you do need to do this at the beginning of every week. But let me just say, the weeks that I sit down and do this and plan my week out, plan my days out, the way that I feel, even if I have lots going on, I just feel so much more at peace. I feel like I'm not just hustling for the sake of hustling. So I just highly encourage you to just give this a try. Try out even planning out like your work week, even if you don't plan out the weekend or whatever, like just plan out the next like 3 days, plan out the next 5 days. If you need some ideas on categories, you could do like work, you could do personal, you could do self-care, you could do, if you're a mom, you could do mom life. I obviously have one for like content creation. You could do one for the gym. Like honestly, you could get very detailed with these, or you can leave them kind of open. Another category that I do recommend having a little time block for is just having like a 1 hour block that's just like open projects, and having that be kind of like 1 hour maybe on like a Friday where you can just kind of like wrap everything up. That was something that was missing in my calendar for a while, was on a Friday having a block where I just was like, okay, I'm going to tidy my office. I'm going to go through my desktop. I'm going to set a new desktop calendar. I'm going to make sure things are clean for Monday. So definitely recommend that. If you're in a season where you feel overwhelmed, you feel like you're not doing enough, or that things just feel hard, I just want to encourage you that sometimes showing up just looks like doing the bare minimum and getting through the weeks, especially in the winter when things are hard. So if you're not in a season where you feel like super encouraged to like do all the things and hustle, that's okay. Your season will come. And if you are in a place where you feel motivated and inspired, I hope this video is encouraging for you. I have lots of other videos all on realistic productivity for type B girlies. So definitely give those a watch. But that's all that I have for you guys today. I hope you have a wonderful week, as always, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Love you guys. Bye.